It is no longer news that our dear country Nigeria is gradually moving away from oil. As a nation, we have forgotten the mandate given to man by God, farming. Farming as an occupation has no restriction. Public servants still in service, private sectors, entrepreneurs. You do not need huge amount of capital to go into farming. As a matter of priority, economic diversification is the only viable way to survive the current environment of global economic uncertainty with the volatility of oil price. And agriculture, farming is the way out.
It is interesting to know that even in one of the most dependable oil producing states of the nation, we still have such an environment where virtually all kinds of agricultural activities are done. We're talking about Vintage Farms. Vintage Farms is one of the leading farms in Rivers State, located along Elele Ahoda Road in Ikure local government area of the state. Here in Vintage Farms, we have fish farming, poultry farming, crop farming, and all the recreational activities are being done here. Away from that, Vintage Farms has a water factory that produces vintage table water. Alright, that's exactly what Away From Oil is all about. That's exactly what Away From Oil seeks to achieve. Gradually redirecting our minds from what I call excess dependency on oil. My name, John Best. Keep it locked up, don't go nowhere.
Well, Vintage Farm is, can I say, a child of circumstance and determination. Why do I say so? Vintage Farm started while I was working in the government. His Excellency's Peter Odele decided to give civil servants loan, especially permanent secretaries and commissioners, to start agriculture. Somebody must start something to do in agriculture. So, giving that loan of 5 million naira then, which he said is repayable, according to it depends on how you fare well with it, I decided to start what is called today Vintage Farm.
Interesting success story there coming from the director of Vintage Farms and Products. You know, I would say kudos. Well, in today's package of Away From Oil, we shall be bringing to you fish farming from Vintage Farms. When you hear fish farming, what comes to your mind? I know it is just that of catfish farming, just like this one we see here. But here in Vintage Farms, there is one unique technique they've actually adopted, going beyond the expected. And I'm telling you that here in Vintage Farms, they do tilapia fish farming. You know, it will really interest you. Well, just sit back, enjoy, and see how or what it takes to be a fish farmer as we unveil everything that it requires to be a fish farmer here in Vintage Farms to you.
The loan actually prepared me. It taxed me, being that I'm somebody from my training, home training. I don't like eating somebody's money, and I was afraid. And to crown it all the place, the then deputy governor Sankebre Tobi. If you know him, you know how disciplinarian he is. In charge of this, he will be the one to give report in each of these places. So fear gripped me. Because I've collected the money, was paid to all of us. Then I started doing a research on what do I do? Where do I start from? That was why I started with fish. Because when I read that with fish, since I'm working, I may not be having time every day. With fish, once you have clean water, the fish may not be growing very quick because you are not feeding them well, but they will stay alive because you have clean water.
We majorly deal with tilapia and catfish here. And tilapia is from Thailand, while our catfish is Dutch clearers. We do our breeding here. We produce virtually all the things we use here. In the concrete pond section, we have 20 standard ponds. And why do we have the concrete ponds and we have the earthen ponds? Those who are into fish farming knows that in concrete pond you need to change water regularly, but in earthen pond you just need to add little water every day so as to increase the volume of water that has decreased over the night. The concrete ponds, in the concrete pond section again, we have flow through and we have recirculatory system. How does it work? The recirculatory system is where you don't need to be changing your water regularly. You might not change your water for a month, for 2 months, but in as much as the system is working, definitely your fish are as good as anything. How does it work? Your water comes in from the bow tower, it passes through the filtration system before it enters the tank, and when it enters the tank, it from there passes through the filtration system again and go back to the bow tower, and from the bow tower the pumping machine pumps it back to the culture tank. That is how the recirculatory system works. And why do we have recirculatory system? We have flow through system, we have earthen pond system. It's just for us to have different system, because here we run generator 247. So the issue of us looking for electricity is out of it. When you are into recirculatory system, at least you are expected to have 18 hours of electricity, because the essence of you not changing the water is because the system is running. And when the system is not running, definitely the amount of dissolved oxygen in your water will increase, and that will cause a lot of problems. They will be gasping for air, and that might lead to a lot of mortality. So that's why we decided to use the circulatory system and flow through. In case if there is no light and we feel that we want to flow through it, we can ask where anything can happen. Generator might break down, there might not be light, so we can move our fish to the flow through system and we'll continue rearing them. The essence of having flow through system is when you have enough water. Flow through system requires a lot of water because it's something you do frequently. The more you feed them, the more they have more waste, and the more there is waste, the more there is going to be increases ammonium and ammonia. So definitely, and that will increases the DO, that is the sulfur oxygen in the water. And when the DO is very low, when their DO is very low, definitely you expect them to come to the surface to look for oxygen. And when they begin to stress themselves to look for oxygen, there will be outbreak of infections. So you have to do proper flow through every morning and evening, at least twice a day, every morning and evening. If you are using local feed as we do, you must do it twice a day. If you are using foreign feed, you can do it once a day. But at least for your fish to grow well, for them to feed well, you must run your flow through frequently and efficiently. You can't do away with that. But the earthen pond, that one doesn't really require much stress. In as much as your pond is well dug, you use the right land for your earthen pond, because the soil you use must be loamy clay soil. You don't use clay soil. You don't use the land that is filled with too much clay or sandy soil. It must be 50% of clay, 50% of loamy. So that particular soil can hold more water than any other soil, and it is very, very easy to maintain. So if you are using your earthen pond, all you just need to do, as we are doing now, is just for you to keep putting water. Sometimes if you have water, sometimes you might not even put water for a week, for 2 weeks, but you make sure that you control their feeding and there is no excess feeding. You don't overfeed them, you don't underfeed them. The advantage of earthen pond outweighs the advantage of concrete. In the earthen pond, you are expected that your fish that you rear for 5 months, you can harvest such fish for 4 months in earthen pond, because the conversion ratio in earthen pond is higher than the one in concrete. Now they convert the waste in earthen pond to food. It can lead to some microscopic organisms like zooplankton and phytoplankton, and those ones they feed on them as well. In concrete ponds, their waste becomes a problem. Their waste is what makes you to flow through water frequently. The advantage the concrete pond has over the earthen pond is because you can sort anytime. You know, to sort in concrete pond is not expensive. It's just for you to just bail out the water, you pack out your fish, you do the sorting, then you are sure of reducing the level of cannibalism. In catfish production, you cannot totally eliminate cannibalization. You cannot 100% eliminate it, but at least you should be able to eliminate it to 80 to 85%. So when you are able to do that, at least you've achieved something. So if you, how will you achieve that? It is by sorting continuously, constantly. The number of fish we brought from the nursery pond down to the concrete ponds here, there are more than 30,000 pieces. But as time goes by, some of them, you see, some will swallow some will attack other. Any weak ones are being attacked by the ones that are stronger. But the more you remove the small ones like these ones. If this one should enter earthen pond now, within the next 2 days, this one will swallow it. And you see this one getting bigger every time, because they will not be eating the normal feed you are giving them again. They will be feeding on the fish. Sorting is the most important part of stocking. When you don't sort your fish, definitely you will not have accurate sizes and there will be high level of cannibalism. So that's the essence of sorting. That's what we want to do now. And after sorting, we are taking them to the earthen pond.
Distilled from the purest natural springs. With your health in our minds, through the finest bottling process, retaining all core alkaline minerals, we bring you purity undefiled. Water that not only refreshes, water that suits the soul. Vintage premium table water. The perfect true taste of water. Available in 50 cl, 75 cl and 1.5 liter bottles. Vintage water as nature intended. Head office, Kilometer 2 Ahoda Road, LLA, Ikwere Local Government Area, Rivers State, Nigeria. For more inquiries, please call 0703 699 8416 or 0818 574 2785.
Spawning and hatching fish is like gift. Not every manager you bring will hatch it to grow. Not. I'm telling you. They have the technology, they have taught them technology, but when they do it, it's like creation. Like you're creating a human being. They are cross-fertilizing egg. So you're creating living thing. So you must be gifted to do it. These are things you find out why. You employ a manager, he has DSC, this, he has technology, everything. Give him fish to spawn. It will be. If he doesn't tell you this one, this other one, the pH level of water, this other one, he will tell you another thing. Another person comes in there, touch it, wow, fish everywhere. I've had more than 5 farm managers there. I know, it's only 3. I have more than 7. It's only 3.
From the hatchling down to when they get to fingerlings, it takes maximum of 5 weeks. You have to get the parent stocks. Like the pond we went to, those big fish, those are the parent stocks. Those are the places where we get the fish we use for breeding. You have to know the type of eggs to use. You have to know the type of male to use. Like most people says, male is a black market, because when you want to buy broodstock, we've tried as much as possible to make sure that here we don't want to buy broodstock outside again. Since we do we produce fish every time, it's for us to just be picking from each generations, be keeping them and be taking their records, so as to know when you want to do your breeding, you know where to pick male from and you know where to pick female from. Because it's not good to use the same fish from the same parents for breeding. There will be what we call inbreeding, and when that inbreeding simply means that it will affect their growth. When a fish has let me say this fish has potential for growth, and the female has potential for growth, and the male has potential for tallness, definitely you will see that the same trait will comes out in the second generation. But if this particular one is picked from here and this one is picked from here, the recessive gene will be different from the dominant gene. This one might have dominant gene for fatness, this one might have dominant gene for conversion. So that is why you don't have to take fish from the same parents, and that's the essence of you selecting your broodstock properly. That is the most important part of it. To other section, feed me is very important in any farm, any fish farm or poultry farm. Feed me is very, very important, as hatchery is important, because this is the art of the farm. This is where you make sure that you produce a very good feed in large quantity. Now, this particular machine behind me is what we call mixer. Now when you go to some farms, they use shovel to mix. So what we'll do is that when we started at first for experiment, this is our gantry machine at first, but as time goes by, we try to say, okay, since we stocked at least more than 40,000, 40,000 pieces every time we stock, why don't we go for something bigger? So we went to Ibadan. My boss went to Ibadan and he met with some people, and we came up with this. This is Nigerian made. Imagine the quantity of fish we have. At least we will not be using in a day that we are not using feed to feed them at all. We will be using close to 8 bags with this little fish we have. You understand? In a day, 8 bags. that are managing. So when you calculate 6,004, depending on the type of feed you are buying, there are some feed that are 10,000 naira per bag. So imagine you are using 6,004 times 8 in a day, times 7 times 30, then times 5 or times 4. That's millions. Then compare it to buying raw materials, stock it in your feed mill, and start producing your own feed.
You do not need to own a farm to be part of farming.
The person who wants to do agriculture must take value chain where he wants to belong. See, there are many things in value chain of agriculture. Let me tell you, you want to do fish, maybe you have tried, it's not working. Do you know you can come here now and tell us, look, I want to be trying fish and be selling and packaging. This is fish being produced by Vintage Farm. You package well, you give it your own name. You can even put your dryer here. So I'll put my dryer here. But somebody will tell you are not in agriculture, you're in a value chain of agriculture. The man is producing fish, he's selling to you. You are packaging, you are selling. He might even give you credit. Challenges in agriculture are as many as the challenges in life, because agriculture is the first profession in life, first profession God created. So the challenges are one, human capital. Then at this level again, what is another world challenge? Access to market. Access to market encompasses storage, because in our place there is no access to sell your thing. I will require to call somebody from Port Harcourt now to come, or carry it from here to Port Harcourt. Once you plug it from the term straight to Port Harcourt, if you don't sell it that day, you cannot sell it again. It goes. So you must have access to market for you to plant something for you to sell. And what is causing this? Legislation, no legislation. When we were young, they used to have marketing board. They have to buy produce board. This produce board, buy your goods and now sell or export or to anywhere you don't know. All you know, if you leave an agriculture to be producing, if everything we are producing here, they take it off, you don't have any problem. The turnover is too small. The profit margin is too small. So the waste in the typical Nigerian market, the waste is 45%. Some are 100%. You produce everything is rotten before you.
It makes sense.
Our weather is too bad.
No business venture without challenges, but with determination to succeed, the sky will be your limit.
Wonderful outing here in Vintage Farms. You know, you've seen it all what it takes to become a fish farmer, and that's exactly what Away From Oil is all about. You know, gradually redirecting our mind from what I call excess dependency on oil. Let's diversify the economy. Let's embrace agriculture. On behalf of the producer and the entire crew of this program, I really do appreciate you staying tuned. We wish to see you again next week for another interesting outing. From here, I am John Best saying bye for now.